Back in 1987, I was still living with my grandmother in Cape Town. Her small house sat right at the edge of the woods. And for me, those trees felt endless. I'd spend hours wandering the trails, poking at things, pretending I was an explorer. But the deeper I went, the more I realized something was wrong. The forest wasn't just alive with birds and wind, it hid things. Things that even now, I can't forget. Would you like to listen? 7 memories, 7 things I found in those woods, and every one of them still haunts me. I was just a boy the first time I found it. A campsite tucked away where no one should have been. The tents were still standing, though one had collapsed in on itself. Inside, sleeping bags lay open, like someone had been pulled out of them in a hurry. There were half-burned logs in the fire pit and a kettle that still smelled of coffee. But no people, no voices, just silence. So out of curiosity, I called out, "Is anyone in there?" All silence, no response. So fear gripped me after hearing the leaves making sounds. I remember circling the camp, calling out, hoping someone would answer. But there was nothing. Even the birds were quiet. It felt like everyone had vanished all at once, leaving everything behind. I ran home to tell my grandmother. She listened carefully, then only said one thing. When you find a place where people left their lives behind, don't go back. I never saw that campsite again. A year later, I found something worse. It was an old oak tree standing alone. Its bark was thick, twisted, scarred. But when I stepped closer, I realized the scars weren't natural. Rusted chains had been bolted into the trunk long ago. The tree had grown around them, swallowing the iron like it was trying to forget. At the ends of the chains hung shackles, big enough for wrists or ankles. I reached out to touch one. It was cold, even in the sun. And for a moment, I swear I heard a sound, like metal scraping against bone. That night, my grandmother saw the dirt in my hands and asked where I'd been. When I told her, she grew pale. "Some trees remember pain," she whispered. "Don't ever touch that tree again." When I was a teenager, I went exploring with some friends. That's when we found the car. It was wedged between 2 trees, vines curling through the windows. At first, we laughed. An abandoned car in the middle of nowhere? What a mystery. But then I looked inside. The glass crunched under my shoes and the smell hit me. Stale, sour, rotten. On the driver's seat were stains, dark and sunken deep into the fabric. And in the back seat, a toy, a small plastic figure. And me being a lover of toy, I decided to take the toy, but my hand couldn't get. I tried, but I couldn't. Then James, my friend, said, "This is mysterious." We never laughed again. We didn't talk about it either. We just walked home, fast. But I'll never forget the feeling that day, like the forest wasn't just hiding a car, it was hiding a story, one I didn't want to know. On a fateful Sunday after church, I followed a trail deeper than I'd ever gone, and then I saw them. Dozens of shapes swaying above me. They hung from the branches tied with twine and rope. Some were little stick figures, some looked like crude dolls. Effigies dangling in silence, spinning slowly in the wind. The strangest part? Some were rotting, brittle with age, but others looked fresh, like someone had hung them only days before. I remember standing there frozen, with the sick feeling that whoever made them was still nearby, watching me, waiting to see what I'd do. But as a young poor kid, I didn't touch a single one. I just turned around and walked the long way home. But even now, when I close my eyes, I can hear them creaking above me. One evening, I got lost as the sun went down, and that's when I found it. A mound of fresh earth piled in a neat oval. Stabbed into the dirt was a crude cross made of branches tied together with rope. At first, I thought it was a memorial, maybe for a hunter's dog. But as I got closer, I saw the soil was disturbed, like something had been buried not long ago. The air felt colder there, and I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was just beneath my feet. I turned and ran before I could find out, but the thought still lingers. Was it a grave or a warning to stay away? Years later, I found something that chilled me to my core. Scattered across the forest floor were Polaroid photographs. Some had been washed by rain, faces blurred into smears, but others were still sharp. One showed a woman standing in front of a house I didn't recognize. Another was of a child smiling awkwardly at the camera. And then, the others. Eyes scratched out, faces gouged with something sharp. Deep, angry marks cut straight through the paper. I stuffed them back where I found them and left. But for days afterward, I had the feeling I was being watched, like whoever took those photos had seen me too. The last thing I ever found was a cabin, rotting, old, slumped in on itself. But what struck me most was that it had no doors, no windows, just four walls and a roof, sitting in silence. I forced my way inside through a gap in the wood. The air was damp, choking, and on the inside wall, I saw claw marks, hundreds of them. Some shallow, some deep, raked so hard the wood splintered. Whatever had been inside that cabin, it wanted out. Or maybe something outside wanted in. I left that place, and I never went back. And I swear, sometimes at night, I still hear scratching. The forest is full of secrets. Some are buried beneath roots, some are left hanging in the trees, and some are waiting to be found by the wrong person. I was that person 7 times, and that's why I never stepped foot in those woods again.